Circle of Life. Howdy, my name is Miguel Sierra. I was born October 16th, 1989. I am a senior engineering technology major with aspirations in becoming a professional engineer in mechanical design or materials engineering. I am the seventh child of 9 siblings and the youngest of the men. My father is Jose Sierra and my mother is Francisca Sierra. I was born in Santa Rosa Jauregui, Querétaro, Mexico. I moved to the United States when I was 4 years old after my father was hired as a seasonal worker in the apple orchards of Michigan. After the season ended, we moved to Texas, where my father got a job and we ended up staying there. I am the first ever to attend an institution of higher learning, since all of my family ancestors have been farmers. During my research, I was able to discover the lineage from my father's side. My mother's side was more difficult to trace. I discovered that my grandfather, Carlos Sierra, was the chief police in Santa Rosa Jauregui in the 1970s. Stories have been told in my father's side that my great-grandfather, Jose Cruz Agustin Sierra, saw and joined Pancho Villa's Revolutionary Army during the Mexican Revolution of the mid-1910s, but quickly left after he saw how ruthless he was with the indigenous people. While doing my research, I also noticed that my last name occasionally changed from Sierra with a C to Sierra with an S. I feel that the people who wrote it just got lazy. At one point, the name was even spelled with a Z, no relation to Zorro. An interesting fact is that my grandfather, Carlos Sierra, was born and raised in the town of Jalpan, Querétaro, very close to a mountain range with a particular mountain named El Cerro de las Campanas, or the Mountain of the Bells. It is a proven fact that this place was the exact place where the Emperor Maximilian de Mexico, who was an Austrian monarch, was killed after the Mexican people overthrew the monarch after 5 years of rule. Faint stories have been said that my great-uncle saw this event, but it was only a faint tale.
Hi, my name is Katie Jackson, and I'm a sophomore education major. I was born on April 29, 1992, to Catherine McCord and Ricky Allen Jackson. I have one older brother named Mark, who is 23 years old. We've lived in Texas my whole life. However, both of my parents were born and raised in Kentucky. In fact, that's where the majority of my family is from, and have been living there for several generations. But I also have ancestors from Tennessee and North Carolina and such. In general, they didn't move around a lot from generation to generation, and that's because most of them were farmers and didn't need to. Of course, I did find out that a few other occupations my ancestors had. For example, my 4th great-grandfather, John E. McCord, was a Universalist preacher. As far as military information goes, I learned that my 9th great-grandfather, James Duncan McCord, died in a battle in 1689. He was the head of the McCord clan on the northwest coast of Scotland. He died in the Battle of Killiecrankie Pass, in which he fought against royal forces in an attempt to help the Stuarts regain the throne of England. His sons and their families fled to Ireland, but because of religious and political issues, they had to immigrate to America in 1717. One of the most interesting facts I learned about my family was about James Duncan McCord's grandson, David. David and his wife were killed in the French and Indian War, and 4 of their children, including my 6th great-grandfather, were taken captive by the Delawares for about 18 months. Another interesting fact is that my grandparents met in a college chemistry class, and my parents met the exact same way, except it was under slightly different circumstances since my dad was my mom's TA. Anyway, that's just a bit of my family history.
Howdy, my name is Jenna Stewart, and I'm a sophomore elementary education major. I was born November 18th, 1991 in Albuquerque, New Mexico. These are some pictures of me and my family. Robert Stewart, my 7th great-grandfather, came to Illinois from Scotland in the late 17th century. The Stuarts came to America because the land leases had run out, and the taxes that had remained the same over the years were suddenly raised. This fact, along with the general unrest between the Crown and England, their taxation, and the pressure to require all to worship under the Church of England rather than Church of Scotland, made everyone restless. I can also trace back some of my ancestors to England. An interesting fact about my family is that my relative, Henry Williamson Gossard, founded the H.W. Gossard Company in Chicago and set about producing corsets and other women's undergarments of the highest quality. Today, Gossard is a British company and is still in business. My 7th great-grandmother, Abigail Barnett, and her husband, Charles May Stewart, helped found the city of Lake Mills, Iowa. The picture of the house is their house, and it was the first boarding house in the town. This is her in the top, and the picture on the right is her and her sisters, and I just like it because they look really scary. A famous person that I'm related to is Mary Chilton. She was my 11th great-grandmother, and she was the first female passenger to step ashore at Plymouth, reportedly so excited that she jumped out of the small boat and waded ashore onto Plymouth Rock. So she was the first person to step off of the Mayflower. Most of my family were farmers, but I also have some laborers, engineers, and physicians. One thing that Katie and I share in common is that our middle name is part of a tradition. My middle name, Ray, is the middle name of my uncle and my grandfather, and Katie's middle name, Hughes, is also the middle name of her uncle and grandfather.
Miguel and I learned that we each had an ancestor who had temporarily moved to Texas and then back to where they were originally from before our own families had moved here. Miguel's grandfather, Evaristo Ortiz, moved to San Antonio to work on constructions in the railroad industry, while my great-grandfather, Albert McCord, on the left of this picture, temporarily moved to Garland, Texas to work in the oil fields.
Something that Jenna and I have in common is that I was born in Old Mexico, while Jenna was born in New Mexico. Now, something that we all share is that people in our family have been farmers for a long time. Farmers fight! One thing that we also have in common is that we are all first-generation Aggies. Whoop! That is our presentation. Thanks, and gig 'em.